A court in Iran has ruled that the U.S. administration paid $245 million to the victims of chemical attacks carried out by Saddam Hussein's forces during the Iraqi-imposed war on Iran. The spokesman for the judiciary, Ghulam Hossein Mohseni Ejei, said that the decree was issued after a number of victims of the chemical bombings filed lawsuits. He added that the compensation fund would be distributed among 18 victims of the attacks. Tens of thousands of Iranians were killed or wounded by chemical weapons during the war. Around 100,000 Iranians are still suffering from the adverse effects of those attacks. During the war, Washington provided Iraq with financial assistance, weaponry, intelligence, technology, and also substances found by UN experts in the fragments of chemical weapons used by the Iraqi army against Iran. Political analyst James H. Fetzer says Iran's measure to demand compensation from the U.S. for chemical bombings should be followed by other nations.
There has been a lot of static coming from Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the Trump administration about Iran's actions, about testing ballistic missiles, even though that's not part of the agreement and there is no violation when Iran does do missile tests. But they're using that as an excuse to dump the deal. Trump is painting us into ever greater isolation, and if we back out of the nuclear deal, certainly the other 5 parties are not going to, and the EU states are going to increase their trade with Iran.
As a matter of fact and law, the ruling was completely appropriate, totally justified. I admire that the Iranian courts have carried this issue to this point because the United States unquestionably encouraged Saddam Hussein to attack Iran. It was a vicious abuse, a violation of international law, a criminal act where the United States supplied him with these weapons of mass destruction. This is a very important development in my estimation, and I hope that other nations will follow the lead, because the United States has been responsible for death and destruction across dozens and dozens and dozens of nations around the world, where, for example, we know the CIA is responsible for some 80 coups and assassinations, for all of which the United States owes reparations to the states affected.